So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and share screen. Can you all see the screen?
Looks good.
Okay. So you are at Indivisible Hawaii Statewide Network's legislative kickoff. We have jam-packed agenda today. As you can see, my name is Young-hee Overly, and I'm part of the statewide network, but also a member of Indivisible Honolulu chapter. We have 14 chapters in the state of Hawaii. We're gonna do this in three sections today. First, we'll have panel discussion with Representative Kapela and Senator Rhoads that will be hosted by Sam, who co-leads Kona Indivisible. And then second, there are five of us who are championing different issues, and we'll be going through what our priorities are. And as you can see there, this is definitely a cross-statewide network with representation from all over the state. And I also want to recognize that we have cross-issue teams such as Clayton, who's tracking the bills for us, because we have quite a few of them. I'm the one who will be sending the email alerts, and you have received one today, your first one today with 3 hearings. And Sam is the one who will be keeping our website up to date. And then third piece of the agenda is Sam's gonna walk you through how you can use various tools we have to do the actions, take the actions that we are asking you to take. So at high level, what can you do? We'll be talking about submitting testimony, whether it's in person or over Zoom, but at times we'll be also asking you to contact specific legislators. We'll be also asking you to meet with them at times, and we'll be also asking you to participate in some of the lobby days. So it's really easy for you to participate. If I want you to walk away from this is how easy it is to participate. And those of you who already submitted testimony for 3 upcoming hearings based on the email that you received today already know how easy it is. Not only is it easy, it makes a difference. The legislators do listen. So we are looking forward to working with you to make a difference this session. So at this point, I'm going to turn over to Sam.
Thank you, Young-hee. So, Senator Rhoads, Representative Kapela, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all the work that you do. This is our kickoff for Indivisible members on working with the state legislature during the session. So it's obvious what's on our minds in this year, which is not exactly a usual time. Senator Rhoads, we see this huge turmoil from the federal government, which affects us in 2 different ways. One is the funding cuts, which you've certainly spoken about a lot, and what that means for the state. And the second is the direct threat to democracy and the rule of law. We've all watched the videos from Minneapolis, and our hearts go out to Renee Good and Alex Preddy and their families. So how do you see the legislature addressing those 2 things this session, and how should we as constituents prepare to participate?
So thank you for having me. And before I get started, it's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, I mean, I think the money part is going to be the uncertainty of it is a big problem, but there are also threats to specific programs that most Democrats view as really important, like supplemental nutritional. I can never remember what SNAP stands for. What used to be food stamps. Um, Poorest of the poor keeps them from going hungry. Changes to MedQuest that make it harder take advantage of and restricts access to health care at a time when most of us would just say, healthcare is a right, not a privilege. And it actually hurts all of us. And it's not just the people who don't have it. It makes it easier. It takes up, everybody goes to the emergency room. So if you need to go to the emergency room, you can't get into the emergency room because all these people who should have been able to go to the doctor can't anymore. So the whole money side of it, I think my advice on how to deal with it is to focus on the services that we think we're probably going to lose. And the big ones I think are SNAP and MedQuest, or not lose, but they're going to be diminished. And you know, lobby your representatives and senators, and there will be bills on it. The budget, of course, will have some effect on it. Tax bills will be important too, because if we're going to, I think there's already, I think governor yesterday in his State of the State speech made it pretty clear that we're probably going to have to hold up on, at least for the higher income brackets who are getting this extended tax cut from the feds. We're going to have to take some of that money back at the state level if we're going to keep the same level of services. The threats to democracy, those are many and varied. I've spent much of the interim doing info briefings on trying to save democracy. I think now that we're in session, I'm turning my attention, and a number of us are turning our attention to the thuggery that has gone along with ICE's enforcement. Wearing masks, not identifying yourselves, excessive use of force, going to areas where traditionally ICE is not enforced, like churches and schools and state courts. So I and several other people are introducing bills on that topic, limiting the assistance that the state law enforcement agencies give to the feds. Partly just out of practicality, at least here on Oahu, we're down about 400 police officers at HPD. They don't even have time to do what they're supposed to do, much less help out something that the feds are supposed to do. There are other things that I feel are necessary to protect the Office of Elections. I and others will be putting in bills to make it so that you can't fire the chief elections officer without cause. And if he does get fired, then there's somebody the AG would step in to be able to certify the elections, because I think there's a very real risk that the federal government will try to claim that elections have not been properly certified, and then they can, put in their fake electors or whatever the ploy is this time. So those are a couple areas. I think the masking and the overreach by ICE, we've been lucky so far. There have been ICE actions in Hawaii, and they are using the detention center at the airport here on Oahu to bring in detainees from other areas. But they just got a huge budget increase, and we are a blue state, and the pattern is clear. They're just going down the blue state list. It's California, Oregon, Washington, Minnesota, Maine, and sooner or later they'll get around to us because we do have immigrants, and some of them are not in status. So, with that budget and that agenda, I think it's very likely that we're on the list sooner or later.
Yeah, I saw you've already scheduled hearings for some of those bills to protect us. So thank you. We'll be there.
I haven't. Maybe somebody else has already, but no, I haven't even introduced mine. Mine doesn't go in until tomorrow. So, but yeah, we have put out a couple bills, but they're not really associated with these topics.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that overview. Now, Representative Kapela, a lot of the folks here on the call, we have close to 100 people in as participants, are pretty new to engaging with the state legislature. So can you help us as a representative? Can you help us understand how much difference our testimony makes? And from your standpoint as a recipient of the testimony, sitting on committee, what do you think makes it most effective?
Thank you for that question. And thank you for the opportunity to be here as well. It's a privilege to join you all. Hello to anyone who's joining from the southern half of Hawaii Island. The district that I represent includes portions of South Kona, and it runs all the way around the southern half to just outside of Hilo in the Keau area. So hello, friends. Your testimony makes a really big difference, especially when we are trying to pass really big bills or bills that might be conceived as controversial. It's really important to have positive testimony that supports, I think, what so many of you are fighting for, whether you are fighting for it in the street through protest or helping amplify messaging on social media or hosting events like this. I think we're very much aligned in what we're trying to fight for, right? It's a better Hawaii. It's a safer Hawaii. It is a Hawaii that is protected from ICE. And just the nonsense that's happening on the continent. So I think it's really important for you to come and share your voice. And I think the nice thing now is that you can testify from your computer, from your phone, wherever you are across our state. You don't have to be here at the Capitol. So step one is certainly sign up for a Capitol account if you don't already have one. Many of you are seasoned testifiers, I think, but if you are new, you're going to want to sign up for it's through the Capitol website, capitol.hawaii.gov. And if you are unsure of how to do that or what that process looks like, the public access room is a really great place to start that as well. So they have a lot of different information, whether it's on social media, public access room, or even if you go to their website, they have a lot of videos that you can follow along and tutorials that are very helpful. But your testimony makes a really big difference. I have seen bills die because no one testifies at all, and it is kind of the practice of a chair to kill a bill if there's absolutely no testimony. Why should you move something forward that no one supports, even if it is something that's really important? So your testimony is important. I think the other thing to note about testimony is that you have to remember that as an advocate, you are sharing your mind, your kuleana, your passions, but you also have to deliver that professionally, right? You can never make it personal. The second you start attacking people in testimony, specifically a legislator that's sitting on the panel, even if you want to, I don't think you help the situation. You don't help your credibility as an advocate. And you want to be someone who is seen as a source of knowledge that if a legislator needs to follow up a second time or pull from your testimony, say to quote on the House floor, you don't want any bad pilikia, I guess is what I would say. You want to make sure that you're someone that's credible, that can be quoted, especially when you're talking about issues like immigration, like pushing back against the federal regime that is just devastating Hawaii in our budget, but also in the values that we hold. So I think we're going to rely a lot on you and your ability to share your stories. And for many of you who are testifying, because I know specifically on Hawaii Island, our Hawaii Island Indivisible works very closely with organizations like Aloha Latinos, like people who are directly impacted, and in many cases are hiding from ICE. You're often going to be sharing stories. I know that because I know that you are working one-on-one, hand in hand with a lot of these immigrant communities. So you want to make sure that you set yourself up for success because you are also representing a lot of voices who may not be able to testify.
Yeah, thanks. Absolutely.
Sam?
And yes.
Sam, there are questions
Yeah.
in the Q&A.
Okay. So let me ask Representative Kapela one follow-up first, and then we'll start picking up the questions. So, Representative Kapela, we struggle with something as in terms of prioritizing our time. There are 3,000 bills that start off in the legislature, and maybe 300 get through. So it's kind of like, little honu babies going off into the ocean, and only 10% of them come back. Do you have any tips on how we prioritize for bills that will make it to the floor at the end for a final vote?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're already starting to do that. Conversations like this are certainly helpful. You have about 95 people on this call. If you have, and you have a handful of, you have about 5 or 6 different like points, right? From immigrant rights and civil liberties and protections to good government and affordability for working families and protections for our LGBTQIA plus community as well. If you 95 split up and like 10 of you focused on like one thing, 10 of you focused on another, 10 of you focused on another issue area, you would really solidly cover and have solid testimony for almost every single one of these issue areas. That would be something that I'd recommend. But you also don't have to do it that way. But I'm just saying you have a fairly large pool of people who are action oriented and ready, because that's one of the things that I know about Indivisible Hawaiʻi is that you have a lot of people who are ready to do whatever it takes. So I think if you can divide among yourselves, divide and conquer, right? So you can hit as many issue areas as possible and have testimony that you're not necessarily just repeating the same thing over and over. You're saying different points that add up to the same issue area to create the change that you're looking for. And I think that that's one of the good things that I like about as a legislator. It's helpful, I think, to not only educate community members, because I did see a question in there of like, why do you need to advocate for common sense action? The reality is that common sense is not that common. And we have a building with a handful of Republicans who like to say nonsense on the floor. So sometimes you have to say the common sense thing to get it onto the record. And unfortunately, that's the America that we live in. We are going up against absolute nonsense. And unfortunately, that nonsense is in like the top executive office for this nation. And we have to combat that. And you're a big part of combating that. And I just want to say thank you, because I know it's hard to combat nonsense.
Right. Senator Rhoads, I'm looking at the questions, and there are a couple that touch on where we started. One is about our ability to, from the state government, from the governor or state legislature, to check on the folks who are at the federal detention center on Oahu near the airport. That's a question. And I'll give you a second one as well, which is also in this area. Maui is considering Bill 92, which is about the Joint Terrorism Task Forces, that subject of the so-called National Security Presidential Memo 7. I know we have something coming up in the legislature to not participate in those, but do you have any perspective on those, on the ability of the state to quickly get in a no Joint Terrorism Task Force participation measure to prevent rogue things happening, like in Maui County?
I mean, at this point, if no one has put in a bill yet this session, they probably aren't going to get one in because the filing deadline is tomorrow, and that assumes that you have any spaces left too. I mean, the thing about the Joint Terrorism Task Force, I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that memo, so I'm speaking in generalities here. There are some issues that we still want to cooperate with with the federal government, you know, narcotics trafficking and things like that. The devil's going to be in the details, and you know, because the federal government has taken people out of a lot of sort of general law enforcement and shoved them all into being ICE officers. It's trickier than it usually is, but you know, there are some things that are going on more or less as normal at the federal level that we probably don't want to get out of. So I would just say, you know, read the fine print, see what we're up against, because I'm pretty sure there will be bills. In fact, I have one still from last year, the Ho'okipa bill, which is just says we won't cooperate with ICE any more than we're absolutely required to by federal law. And that's partly a practical issue too, at least maybe I said this already, on Oahu, we're down 400 police officers, so they don't really have time to do ICE's job, especially when ICE has a budget of $150 billion or whatever it is now. Let's see, what was the other one? Oh, HML.
The other one is the detention center.
Yeah. So I know that U.S. Representative Takuda has gone there at least once, maybe twice. I don't know if anybody from the federal state side has tried. I mean, we don't really have any jurisdiction there. I do know that the advocates who are trying to represent as many people as they can to get their basic due process have gotten better access recently than they were, I don't know. Well, they're just aware that these weird things are happening where people are being flown in from New Jersey or wherever. And but I think they've sort of gotten that systematized where they are making contact as with as many people as their resources allow. So I don't think it's a long way of saying I don't think it's being completely ignored, and I think that the federal oversight is much better. Having a congresswoman go into a federal facility is more effective than me going into a federal facility.
That makes sense. And another one for you, Senator Rhoads, is about bills that have many referrals. Does that disadvantage a bill? Like,
yes. Yeah, it totally does. I mean, I have seen bills that have crazy referrals make it through and become law, but usually there's no written rule about it, but typically it's viewed as a leadership doesn't like the bill if they put five, or usually it's no more than five, but if they put five committees on it. But having said that, anything that you're looking at currently, there is a few days here where the chairs argue about whose bill is which, and that we do have rules about the jurisdictions of the different committees, and sometimes, well, you often see quite a lot of jockeying in the first few days of the session where people are trying to either get their own committee on because they think for some reason the rules say they're supposed to be. Like if there was a bill that had criminal penalties in it and the Judiciary Committee wasn't on it, I would argue about it. It's like, hey, that's what we do here at the Judiciary is we do criminal bills. And I'd probably win that one. Ones that are less, there's a lot of gray areas and bills, of course, some of them are quite long, and you could realistically make the argument that virtually every committee in the body should be on it, and you just can't do that. So, but I wouldn't check them again in a few days and see what's left, because sometimes people will get taken off and sometimes more people get put on. So, but yes, it's not a good sign.
Yeah. So there are a couple more that are ICE related that I'll pass to you. I see that Representative Kapela is answering one directly in the chat. Regarding ICE and the detention centers and so forth, are there any plans to pass a law to forbid the construction or acquisition of more detention centers?
Yes, I actually had a bill in last year to do that. And I think, I don't know whether they'll be able to pass it or not. I'm going to try. So there is, I don't have the bill number in front of me, but we did put one in last year on that, but it didn't, I'm hesitating because I think it ended up stalling at my committee, and I don't remember why there was some hiccup and I didn't go forward with it. So this year I can pick it up and move on from there.
The next question is about the level of activity of ICE arrest and detention here in Hawaii, and what do we know? Is there any possibility for us to see what happens in the immigration court, and do we have a way of tracking whether the activity's increasing? There have been some, show arrests like the Kauai 44. Do we have any visibility into that?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. I don't know. I don't believe that the immigration courts are open to the public, but the organizations that represent people, represent detainees, do go in there routinely. And I'm just trying to remember, we had an info briefing on this a few months ago about what the status was on immigration in general. And yeah, we were getting better and better, a better and better handle on who's in court and who are they detaining and who are they actually going after. But what I thought was a very interesting tidbit was that most of the activity here in Hawaii has been aimed at Spanish speakers, which is I'm not. I mean, there's some real straightforward, obvious, racially based reasons for that. But when you look at the mix of undocumented undocumented foreigners in the state, I would say probably there's a lot more Mandarin speakers and Ilocano speakers than there are Spanish speakers. So I'm not really sure what that means, but the other thing that came up in that info briefing was that because of this huge budget increase for ICE, that they're expecting the advocates are expecting this to be a worse year than last year.
Great. Thank you for that wisdom. Representative
Sam?
Kapela, we're not going to have, yes, Young Hee?
Oh yeah, there was a question that Representative Kapela answered that I didn't quite catch the answer, so I wanted to ask her.
Go ahead.
So it was I think it was Franny Yep who asked about what's more effective? Is it calling your office about a bill? Is it showing up? Is it testimony, or is it organizing people to show up? What would be the most effective?
Yeah, very quickly, because I know we're running out of time for this portion of the event. I said that having someone who is a constituent is the most effective for any legislator. So I think the best thing to do, I guess to answer that question, it would be organizing people and ensuring that you have constituents talking to legislators, the person who is their legislator. That's probably the most effective way to move a legislator specifically, is knowing that this person is a voter in your community. That's probably the best way to do it. I would also say you folks are really good at organizing. Look at the count that you have on tonight's event. Utilize that power to testify, to come and do an event here at the Capitol. You folks have been doing a lot of those, as we saw today. But I think more of that and maybe collective actions across the state happening at one time, it's something really special that I think only Indivisible can accomplish.
Thank you for that. That's a great segue into, I think, our next section, where we'll be talking about the specific issues that we are advocating for this term, and then the how-to on testimony. So thank you both very much for your time. Thank you for all the work you do. Thank you for being, firebrands of good values.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
We'll see you at the Capitol.
Yeah, see you at the
Indeed.
Capitol. Okay, thank you, Sam. I'm going to go ahead and share screen again. So thank you, Sam, for great discussion there. Now we're gonna switch over to second part of this webinar, which will be going through 5 issue areas on what our priorities are. So I'm gonna turn it over to Steve. Steve?
Yeah, let me turn on my video and sound. Welcome everyone to this webinar on our 2026 priorities for legislation. I'm going to be heading up the group that's focusing on bills relating to what we're broadly calling migrant rights. And I know all of you understand exactly why that topic is a priority this year. And we want to provide people with tools that will make it as easy as it can be to participate in legislative advocacy, lobbying, as people who have an interest in each one of these issues. For the migrant rights group, I'll be drafting suggested talking points for most of the bills that we focus on. to give people a starting point when they want to submit a letter or written testimony. And then we'll be coordinating across the state, and hopefully can follow the advice that was just given, that for each significant bill that we can get constituents of the legislators who filed them and are voting on them to really raise our input to the highest level of concern. So one of the topics that's a priority for us under migrant rights is to establish safe places. There's already at least one bill that's on that topic that would require the Attorney General to designate state properties that where there should not be voluntary consent to the entry of federal enforcement agents into non-public areas. And the language there has significance in terms of what might actually be effective, because the Attorney General of the state of Hawaii can't generally control all private areas like churches, but they can exercise some control over public agencies and facilities like schools and hospitals. So the bills have to be focused in the right way. For most of the topics here on this list, we expect that there'll be more than one or two bills, frankly. And it's going to be a process of winnowing out and hopefully putting the most effort in on those bills that have the best chance of making it through both houses, which does require getting through at least one committee in each side, often two, sometimes three. So, establishing safe places. They're limiting state collaboration with DHS, ICE, and CBP. There are at least two bills that I'm aware of already and have written some talking points about. One which focuses on what we have generally called the 287G agreements, which are actually under 8 United States Code 1357, I believe. Anyway, those agreements would delegate enforcement authority for immigration purposes to local agencies. Getting those agreements is a priority of the federal government, and getting them in Hawaii is a priority of the federal government. But there are bills that will prohibit state agreements under that federal statute. There are also other bills which focus on the concept of memorandums of understanding, or MOUs. So agreements outside the specific immigration enforcement area, but which may also impact the Hawaii residents' exercise of their First Amendment rights or other constitutional rights, and the potential for federal agents exercising excessive force. And so those bills are working to prohibit participation in any agreement which might lead to Hawaii law enforcement getting entangled in federal violations. No secret police and no masking. There's at least one bill by Senator Rhoads, and I think there are going to be a couple or three more. And this is a difficult area of, if we get a bill passed, it's going to be challenged in federal court by the federal government. California is kind of leading on that issue by passing a bill last year, and it has been challenged in federal court. There has been the first hearing on it about 10 days ago, and don't know the ruling yet, but the state establishing requirements that the federal agents have to meet is a bit tricky legally, but we're going to have bills and we're going to fight for them. The Truth Act, another example, was passed in California several years ago, actually. And this is largely requiring that people who may be subject to interview or detention by immigration, but who are in state custody or state hands, that the state agents have a responsibility of making sure that those individuals know what their rights are in talking to immigration and have access to the information they need to make intelligent decisions about how to handle an ICE interview or to handle an ICE detention. Sentencing reform to minimize immigration consequences. This may be legally difficult to understand, but I'll try and make it simple. There's a federal law on immigration which says that any sentence of 365 days or more makes that crime a felony that can make you deportable, right, as one step. So the effort here is to define 1 year in custody under Hawaii law as 364 days, so that no one on a misdemeanor could be sentenced to 365 days and trigger that felony designation under immigration law. That's a neat trick, and California did that about 5 years ago, and it's been working. Standardizing UNT visa certification. UNT visas have to do with state officials requesting immigration status from the federal government for people who have been victims of crime or who are witnesses of crimes, and a couple of other categories. And standardizing that process with state agencies, which largely means educating district attorneys, prosecutors, and some law enforcement folks to know how to apply this and when they can apply it. So there are bills on that. Resources for immigration targets. There's at least one bill that would require the Department of Civil Rights to establish a 24/7 helpline that would be a reporting location for people who've been harmed in some manner by federal authorities, and would also be responsible for helping to provide resources depending on what kind of harm that the people have suffered. And then protecting the right to record law enforcement actions. There's at least one, and I think there will be several bills on this. But the idea is to, it is already clear under the Constitution of the United States and Hawaii, and under at least one Hawaii statute, that it's lawful to record law enforcement actions in public areas. But this new bill would make it explicit that it's lawful to record, and it would it establishes a right to bring a civil action in court for damages for anyone whose rights under this statute are violated. So if they threaten you, grab your phone, throw it to the ground, push you down, and of course we know they can do even much worse things than those. But if they violate your rights under the statute, you have the potential of bringing a lawsuit to try and bring accountability into their conduct. Excuse me. So I think Sam, at the end of the subject matters here, is going to walk you through the system of actually submitting testimony in written form and how to get established on the Capitol website. The tools are pretty easy to work with. Submitting written testimony is something you can do on your own time. Generally has to be done at least 24 hours before the hearing that's scheduled on a bill in order to make sure that it gets into the official record before the hearing. Where
Thank you, Steve.
Can see it.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. There are a lot of questions. This is Young again. There are a lot of questions that we cannot get around to. We do have a lot of topics to go through. What we'll do is to make sure that we do go through your questions and respond to you as a follow-up along with this recording. So I'm going to go ahead, and in fact, there is a hearing on the last bill that Steve just talked about on Wednesday. and you should have all received an email about it. So I'm gonna move on to the next topic. So Marlene?
Oops. Okay. Can you see me, hear me? Oops.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Hi everyone. I'm the co-lead of the Indivisible Honolulu chapter, along with Marguerite Coster, who unfortunately can't be here because she's on her way to an Ed Case town hall. Anyway, good government and free and fair elections, secure elections, it's all sort of interchangeable words, descriptors. But the first area under that umbrella is protect election integrity and expand voter access. There are quite a few bills on this topic already, and we've been working with the League of Women Voters for one. And actually, Senator Rhoads mentioned a couple of them already. One is to basically protect the position of chief elections officer, right? Should the Elections Commission decide to, somehow remove the current chief elections officer, the Attorney General will step in. That's what one of the bills provide or proposes. The other one is related, is that the chief elections officer can only be fired for cause, right? Not because, a three-member panel made up of, MAGA zealots decide that the elections officer has to go. So hopefully that will pass as well. And a couple other, well, this next one is very important, extending the time for ballot curing. As you know, as I think, probably all of you know, Hawaii has mail-in voting, right? We automatically receive the ballots in the mail, which is great for kupuna who can't travel, but there could be some minor errors, minor glitches, and currently the time to fix those minor errors is only 5 days. So that the bill is going to propose increasing that time. And then there's another bill that's perhaps maybe a little difficult to get passed. We don't know, but it's because it requires appropriations. It's to fund more voter service centers. Little tongue twister there. Right now, there are only 2, I think, on each county. And of course, 2 on Oahu is tough enough, but I can't imagine being on Hawaii Island and having to, go from one to the other if for some reason, you didn't get your mail-in ballot. So that requires funding to increase the staff to, work at the voter centers. So that's a big question mark, but, we'll do what we can to support it. And the next area, actually, just all 3 next areas have a ton of bills being proposed. The publicly funded elections, we have been told, again, things can change on a dime, but there's one comprehensive public funding of elections, one bill for that may have a more difficult time than the partial funding bills. And there are 3 of those. I mean, they're companion bills, but each one sort of specifying slightly different things. For example, there's a bill that proposes amending the Hawaii revised statutes, and it specifies the maximum amounts of public funds for each election for different candidates. If you're running for the mayor of Kauai County or mayor of Maui County, you might get different percentages of public funding. So lots to watch there as well. Yeah, the comprehensive one, again, may have a more challenging time. In fact, on opening day, when the legislature was open to everyone, to the public, we met with a representative on the Ways and Means Committee, and he basically said any bill that requires appropriations this session could face an uphill battle, which again, referring to what Senator Rhoads mentioned earlier, that we need to backfill the federal funding that we're losing. So anyway, there may be not so much available for the rest of us. Okay, close campaign finance loopholes, and we know there are lots of loopholes. The Campaign Spending Commission actually has a huge package of bills. I have to admit, I'm kind of new to this, so I don't know like if there are any limits of number of bills that you can include in one package. So the Campaign Spending Commission may have more than one package, but just from the spreadsheets I've seen, anyway, there are quite a few of them, and they all, propose different things. Some, want to propose amending different sections of the revised statutes again, such as like requiring candidates to who receive contributions from lobbyists to deposit the contributions within 7 days of getting that contribution, and file.
Marlene, 1 more minute.
Oh gosh, okay, I won't go into details then. Yeah, anyway, lots of bills on this topic. Then the last area, curb the influence of big money in elections. This is another interesting one. There's an SB Senate Bill 2039, which, speaking of, hearings already, the Commerce and Consumer Protection Committee has scheduled a hearing for this bill to ban certain businesses from making contributions to elections. The hearing is scheduled for Thursday, the 29th. So yeah, I will be sending out something, whether it's MailChimp or otherwise, to urge everyone to provide testimony for that. And there's one more bill that I think should be highlighted. But it requires it's a constitutional amendment. The constitutional amendment is to block corporate campaign contributions. And it's interesting because it refers to non-natural persons. If you don't know what non-natural, who is a non-natural person, it actually means corporations. It came out of sort of the Citizens United ruling from the Supreme Court back in 2010 or something. So that's another good one to watch, Senate Bill 2040. But because it requires a constitutional amendment, again, we would have to work really hard to get that to pass. So that's about it. But I guess the main message, which has already been said by Representative Kapela and Steve as well, is we need you guys to help us You're the army, so we need you to maybe that's a bad choice of word. Anyway, you're our grassroots to help us, provide testimony and so on. So,
Okay, thank you.
okay, you're welcome. I hope I made it under the minute.
Okay, thank you. And I am next. So we are working with Working Family Coalition as well as Tax Fairness Coalition on bills that you're gonna hear more about from me. Essentially, you heard Marlene mention it. You also heard Senator Rhoads mention that taxation is gonna be key this session, and that's because of the federal funding cut we received. About 20% of Hawaii's state budget, which is about a little over $3.5 billion, come from federal. And we don't quite know how much of that will be really impacted by it. But we cannot fund safety net programs or any programs without increasing the tax. And it becomes, we're in this situation because of what's called regressive tax system. So take a look at these two graphs here. Essentially, just reminding you, for family of four, average cost of living in Hawaii is $120,000. For single person, average cost of living in Hawaii is about $75,000. So when you look at the percentage, if you're making, look at the bottom 60%, if you're making less than $80,000 as a house family income, and you are paying over 20% of that into state tax, sales tax, what does that do? Already, you don't have enough money for your family. So something's gotta change, and it's about what we're gonna talk about next. So essentially, these are bills that's part of Working Family Legislative Caucus bills. Most of them are that Representative Kapela and Senator Rhoads co-convene. So the ones in three tax credits or subsidies for needy family and disabled. The ones in green are tax revenue bills, and when you add it all up, it will yield us almost $600 million plus. I strongly doubt that all of them will pass, but we're gonna have to push for it. And the one that Senator Rhoads mentioned that Governor talked about is Act 46, freezing Act 46, which was state income tax cut we passed in 23 for the high-earning individuals, is gonna yield a big chunk of this. What do we need? So you'll be hearing about these bills and asking you to support these bills. So at this point, I'm gonna turn it over to Doris.
Aloha, folks. My name is Doris Siegel Matsunaga. I'm a retired public health educator who spent my career working at community health centers on Oahu. And I'm also part of the North Hawaii Action Network in Waimea, where I live on the Big Island, and part of the Indivisible Hawaiʻi healthcare team who's been working on these issues. So we start with the assumption that that Medicaid and the ACA are good for everyone in Hawaii. It's not just for poor people. We are one ohana, we are one small state, one risk pool. The more people who are insured, the lower the costs for all of us. The higher number uninsured, the higher healthcare cost in the system, and those are passed on to all of us, including employers and the state budget. So Medicaid and SNAP cuts are projected to cost Hawaii over $600 million in federal revenue by year 2029 as people drop or lose benefits. So it's imperative that Hawaii increase state funding to consider new programs to preserve its strong healthcare safety net. So because of that, our number one priority is to pass the tax fairness bills that Young Hee was just mentioning and that Senator Rhoads mentioned. This is critical to generating enough state revenues to support basic health and human services in the face of these cuts. So we can move on to the next list, Young Hee. Thanks. So there's a number of bills that have been introduced, and there will be more. In particular, we're looking at state-funded programs for the uninsured. Increasing funding for new state programs will be needed to assist people who have lost health insurance coverage. There is a bill to establish a 3-year state-funded pilot program, and we hope there will be others. We also need to support healthcare safety net providers. This means increasing state funding to healthcare safety net medical providers, especially Hawaii's community health centers. There's also a bill which you got a notice about today if you've already signed up. It'll has a hearing tomorrow. Things move really fast. And this is to address our medical provider shortage, especially on neighbor islands, by expanding tax incentives to include more safety net providers, including optometrists, audiologists, and chiropractors. So we hope you'll just click support on that. You don't need to send anything more than that, but just click support. The next one I wanted to talk about is healthy women and children, regardless of immigration status. There is a bill to provide Medicaid coverage to all pregnant women and children, regardless of immigration status. That was introduced last year, and it did not make it very far. What we were told was that they were waiting to see what happened in terms of Medicaid cuts. Well, now we know. So we need your help with that one. I'd like to talk about protecting abortion access and privacy. Hawaii has a tradition of supporting reproductive rights, and they must be upheld and strengthened in the face of federal attacks. One of them is would prohibit the state from interfering with the right to obtain abortion and contraceptives. This is a constitutional amendment, and it was introduced last year. I think we hope that it can pass, but that one may be a stretch. The next one is to protect access to clinics that provide reproductive health services. If any of you have passed by Planned Parenthood, you've seen the protesters. And this is just to make, not to interfere with their right to protest, but to make sure that patient privacy and is not abridged. There's another to require all hospitals to provide emergency care to all pregnant women, including for abortion if needed. Kind of crazy we have to have a law that says that, but we do. Another is to allow pregnant persons to receive abortion medication with a label that does not bear their name and other identifying information. Just to move on to support Hawaii's vaccine policies. We don't have any specific bills there yet, but we want to advocate for Hawaii's current evidence-based vaccine programs and block any anti-vax bills that may be introduced, and I understand they definitely will. So there's one more area that I'm going to turn over to Abby, but if we can wait just a moment, I wanted to mention a couple just words of advice on my part, which is that the legislature moves fast and furious, and testimony may be due in very short notice, like the ones for tomorrow. It is okay to get in late testimony. It's better late than never. It's okay to just click support a lot of the time, All they do is count numbers. One exception is if your rep is on the committee, your particular representative, and you have a personal story, then it's really important that they hear from you and that they hear your story. Also, I would urge people to not just wait for a hearing, but if there's a couple of these issues that really speak to your heart now, write your representative now and tell them you want them to support these bills, especially if they're on one of the committees, either a money committee or subject matter. So that's it. And let's turn it over to Abby to talk about this next area, shield law for gender affirming care. Thanks, Abby.
Mahalo, Doris, and mahalo to Indivisible for inviting me. My name is Abby Simmons. I am the chair of Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. My pronouns are she, her. I'm delighted to speak to you this evening about some bills that are very, very important to our community, but extend beyond our community to your rights as well. So one of the biggest bills that we are focused on in this legislative session is what we call the Shield Law Bill. This Shield Law Bill essentially is a bill that will protect our medical providers as well as patients and their families from out-of-state interference when they're receiving gender-affirming care or reproductive health care. You don't have to be an expert in gender-affirming care or know a whole lot of details about it to understand that we really don't want MAGA politicians in our doctors' offices telling us what care we can and what care we cannot receive. It is our right to make those determinations about our own bodies without interference. So what we have is a gender-affirming care shield law bill that also enhances protections for reproductive rights. So it's a combined bill that does both things. We have the bill number, it's HB 1875, and the Senate bill number 2868. And at this time, I am unsure which of these bills is going to move in the House or in the Senate or both at the same time. We're still trying to figure that out. But we do have the referrals already set for the House bill. I would ask you to please take a moment and just commit to protecting your neighbors and our community so that we can access our life-saving healthcare. It's truly essential for us. And if I heard a saying that if we only care about our own particular rights, that is the fastest way for all of us to lose our rights. So we can't do it without your support. And another good thing to know is that our bills do not have any funding tied to them. So we're not asking our legislators to go and dig into the purse and fund our bills. We're just asking them to do the right thing and to protect our existing rights and our existing civil liberties. I've put my contact information in this slide, and I hope that you're able to access it later. But you can email me at stonewalldph@gmail.com. We also have a Signal chat, which is a rapid response chat. As Doris had mentioned, these bills get hearing notices, and we have 48 hours to get folks to testify. Your testimony never has to be anything, doesn't have to be a book, it doesn't have to be a research paper, it can just be a couple of lines saying, I support this bill because I believe in the right to make your own medical decisions free from MAGA fascists, for example, if that's how you want to write it. That's how I feel about it. But you can obviously write it any way that feels and fits your personal style. One quick thing I would like to add, because I know we're running low on time. There is a bill scheduled for hearing on Friday. It's Bill HB 1452, and it's relating to birth certificates. And that particular bill is important because it will allow transgender people to update their birth certificates without proving medical interventions and without having to go through jump through a lot of hoops that are in a lot of ways dehumanizing. So it's a bill that that basically mirrors what we see in California and other blue states, and is an inclusive way for folks to be able to prove their identity and not be forcibly outed when they're, for example, trying to apply for a new job. In closing, I'll say that we've tried to pass a protective shield law bill in the last 2 legislative sessions, and we fell short. But we didn't fall short because we didn't have the amount of support that we needed. We fell short because the sheer amount of misinformation that was being put out by representatives like Diamond Garcia, Empiric, and other House and MAGA senators flooded social media with misinformation that I will not repeat here. I urge you not to repeat that misinformation in your testimony because it only solidifies our opposition's points and talking points. Some of that is extremely dehumanizing. And I ask you just for your support and an open heart, and come out and please support us. We cannot do it without our allies, and we cannot do it without Indivisible. Thank you so much. Again, please feel free to reach out and contact me with questions. There's also a link to our full LGBTQ+ tracker. That itself could take an hour to go through, but we have bills that we're going to include into Indivisible's tracker. And so you can access it from there as well.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you. And I believe that turn it over to Sam or Doris at this point.
Yeah, we are going to turn over to Sam, but Doris, did you want to add?
It was a wonderful presentation, Abby. I just wanted to add that it's also a shield law for the providers, and our state ACOG is supporting this bill because they are worried about lawsuits from out of state that will come after them simply for providing their own medical care as they believe and the law requires. So it's also protection, not only for patients, but for our very good medical providers who need to be protected. Thank you.
Thank you,
it.
Doris. Yeah, ACOG is the organization of OBGYNs, for those of you who weren't sure what that was. And I want to emphasize, I have, my son has a lot of doctors who are refusing to move to even purple states after for their residency because they don't feel protected. And so this is not just about those who need gender-affirming care and abortion service here. It's going to impact all of us. If our medical providers don't feel protected, they may also leave. They have option of leaving the country because they have certain skills other countries need too. So this is real. This is not, it's going to have a big impact on us unless we can protect our providers. And I do want to re-emphasize what Doris said earlier, that I have been doing this at Hawaii State Legislature, and it's the stories, whether it's a personal story or your experience from your business or your community, that seem to really resonate with all legislators. So if you have personal story to share, and if you could take time to join to testify verbally, even if over the Zoom, I really encourage it. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Sam.
Thank you, Young-hee. So I know we're running a few minutes late. I hope you'll be able to stay with me if I run over a little bit. I am now going to get into the actual process of how you monitor what's going on in the legislature and how you submit testimony. And I'm going to do this in 4 parts. I'll show you the resources we've put up on the Indivisible Hawaiʻi site. Then I will take you to the Hawaii Capitol website, where You'll see how to sign up for bills and notifications. I got a little bit ahead of this meeting, a notification in email, so I'll go to that and I'll show you how I submit testimony for it, and I'll submit testimony on the bill in front of you so you can see the demo. If I go fast, I want to say you'll get a recording, access to a recording of this meeting, so you can go back and go through the demo slowly. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. And you should see a browser here. So this is the indivisiblehawaii.org webpage. And if you scroll down a little, and this works either on your computer or your phone, doesn't really matter, you'll see Protect Hawaii 2026. And you'll see here links for the issues that we're tracking. I'll come back to that in a minute. You also see a Sign Me Up button. I'm going to click that. The Sign Me Up button takes you to a simple form. A few of you have done this already, where you fill in who you are, your zip code, which of the issues you want to be notified about, and tell us anything else we should know about you. Like you might say something like, I've actually done bill tracking before for such and such organization. Or you might say something like, I'm very active on TikTok and would like to drive more people to testify there. Can I post for you? Or whatever you want us to know. So there's a form. You get to it from a couple places on our website. This is how you get on our list to notify you by email. Now, let's look at the material we've put up on the website. So there are a whole bunch of questions early in the chat about bills to cover specific issues. What we've tried to do here for each of the topics, such as migrant rights, good government, affordability, etc., is to give you in plain language the issues the topics within the issue that we're tracking, like establish safe places, limit state collaboration with the DHS agencies, etc., and what those things are. So this is all plain language. Then we also give you for each of these a button for a daily update on the specific bills that we are tracking in these areas. So I just clicked for the daily update on migrant rights. And here it is. It's a spreadsheet. I'll come back to this after we go to the Capitol site. Let me come back to this page. You also will see at the top of this page, you have a little table of contents for all of the issue areas. And again, there's a Sign Me Up button, takes you to the same form to sign up to get on our public policy team. All right. Let me now take you to the Capitol website. Okay, I am logged in. If you don't, by the way, in case you haven't done this, and I hadn't done it until recently, and you want to learn about how to use the basics on how to use this Capitol website, look up on your web search Hawaii Legislature Public Access Room, and you will get here. There are lots of good, simple training videos under Engagement 101, how to register for your account, how to find your senator and representative if you don't know, how to submit testimony, and so forth. And it's a great basic reference. But let me show you actually what happens after you register. Okay. I'm logged in as me. I'm going to click Track Measures. You'll see that I have a list on migrant rights, the topic area, the issue that Steve was talking about earlier. And I have put on here a number of bills that I want to track. That gives me, on the hearing notifications, automatic tracking on those bills. And I can add here more bills by number, which you can get off of our daily update spreadsheet or off of a search here on the Capitol website itself. Now, word to the wise, the bills that are on our tracker that I showed you, that so for example, these under migrant rights, we have vetted as things we want to support. So these are, if you will, baby honu. We're going out to the ocean that we have tagged because we want to bring them back to floor vote at the end of the season as adults. So we're lining up behind these. You're welcome to search for anything else you want as a citizen and put it on your personal tracker and subscribe to notification for that. I've done it for, this set of measures, which is essentially based on the daily update sheet I just showed you. Now, because I have these bills here, I actually got in my email a notice today from Hawaii State Legislature telling me about a hearing scheduled in Senator Rhoads' committee, Judiciary, on SB 2055 and 2152. 2055 is one of those that I am tracking. If I look back at the legislative website, 2055 was here on my list. If I click that on the Hawaii State Legislature website, you'll see it's telling me that the update today was that the committee hearing was announced for January 30th, 10 a.m. And it gives me an opportunity to submit testimony with this yellow button. So I'm interested in testifying on SB 2055. I'm going to submit testimony. Oh, it looks like I already submitted testimony on another one, but I haven't on this one, 2055. So press continue. And this asks me who I am. It sees who I am. Do I support or oppose? I support it. I am testifying as an individual citizen here. And I plan on submitting written testimony only because I will not be able to make the Zoom on Friday because I'm going to be watching the police chief interviews here in Hawaii County, the Big Island. So I will be in the Civic Center at the time of that hearing. So I'm doing written testimony only. And I have two ways of doing it. I can upload a file if I want to submit a pretty PDF. or I can just go into their editor here and submit testimony. Now, 2055 is one of our watch list bills. So you see it right here, the victim helpline. Okay. And you'll see there's a column here for talking points. And if I click the link under the talking points column, that takes me to a document that very helpfully Steve prepared for all of us to use for talking points. So I'm going to copy that testimony and back here, paste it into their editor, and I can customize it further if I want, or just click submit. The website says once your testimony is submitted, it can't be edited. That's fine. I won't try to edit it. And it's in. And I see the confirmation here with SB 2055 submitted. So I just took you in, I think, about 15 minutes from getting general information here about what we are supporting to signing up on the website for your notifications on specific bills, to seeing the email on a particular bill because I had signed up for that notification, to finding recommended testimony that we provide in talking points, to actually submitting it to the state. So that was 15 minutes or less. All of you have the opportunity to do this as engaged citizens. And we at Indivisible will help you if you sign up on that form I showed you that you can get to from our website. And you will get mail that notifies you from Indivisible, as well as the mail from the Hawaii State Legislature. From Indivisible, you will get mail saying, because you signed up for migrant rights policy team, you need to know about this hearing coming up soon on SB 2055, and you can get sample testimony off of the daily update. So that's how simple it is. We look forward to having all of you help us with this mission of engaging with the legislature for testimony. As Senator Rhoads pointed out, there is this bias that you can't ignore the testimony, and they need us as the public showing up.
Yep. And I will add to that because for certain bills, like Senator Rhoads talked about gun safety bills, the people on the opposing side are really organized. We also have to get organized. And I think Representative Kapela mentioned that one of our strengths is we show up together. So let's show up for these bills. And I do also want to show you.
Oh, and wear your shirt.
That's right. And so I do want to show you, because all of you who signed up for this webinar have been added into our State Public Policy Network database. So you will be all receiving email alerts as well. So you should have, most of you, if not all of you, should have received the email this afternoon So I do want to show what that looks like so you know it's coming from us. So let me go ahead and show. So this should have been the email you received. And here, for the 3 hearings coming up, one for healthcare, one for good government, and one for migrant rights. So from here, all you have to do is say submit testimony, and it takes you to the website that Sam just showed you, Kapela website. And from here, I'm gonna do this as me personally. And when I log in, look, it takes you straight to where you could submit testimony for SB 2039. And Sam showed you how he did it. And if from the email, if you click on the reference, this will take you to the talking points, like this one here, that Sam shows you also for the specific bill. So with that, I think we actually have 3 minutes to spare. So I will be sending out the older slides you have seen today, along with the recording. Again, you do not have to sign up on the Google form because you've been already added to the database because you attend this webinar. But there are 3 hearings coming up, so go ahead and join us in this movement. And again, at times, we'll be calling on you to call your legislators, especially if you live in districts of certain committees that bills are going through. You heard Representative Kapela, that does matter to us. Okay, so we'll be calling on you. Thank you all and have a good night.